Okay, there we go. Let's find a comfortable place to sit back on your mat. Maybe I'll talk just for a minute longer today about sitting. I don't think I said much. I have a yoga bolster. They're not cheap. You can use a sofa cushion, a rolled up blanket, a yoga block, but it's really, really helpful to get your hips higher than your knees in particular. Because what we're wanting here, I think I'll sit to the side just for a second so that you can see. A lot of what I say around alignment and how to put our bodies into various shapes has to do with the low back. And if the knees are higher than the hips, the low back rounds, which is not really great for the low back. We really want the low back to have that nice concave curve. So you want to find enough height so that your knees can relax down. And then you can see what happens in my spine when that happens. I get this curve in my low back, so I have all my natural curves, which we want. You might find too that as you find the curve of your low back, which means a little bit dropping the pubic bone, the front of the pelvis downward, that you get a little lightness through the chest. You may notice that. And then let's, maybe we'll just play around with that just a little bit. So for a moment or so, see about lifting the pubic bone and sort of tucking the tailbone, rounding the low back. And then a little bit dropping the tailbone, you'll feel your sit bones go back behind you and the curve will come into your low back. And so rock back and forth a few times over your sit bones like this. And that's not to say that we want this really exaggerated low back curve, but most of us aren't going to get to an exaggerated low back curve seated anyway. So I don't think we really need to worry about that too much. Let's come to a place now with the pelvis so that we can feel the low back curve and a lightness through the chest. There's really nothing that's flat about the spine. The spine is full of curves. We want them. We have some concavity here in the neck, in the low back as well. And then as you experience that sensation, maybe close your eyes or take a soft gaze. And notice what it feels like to sit, in this, as I said Monday, I think dignified posture where we're very much supported, not just by the earth, but by our internal structure, our bones, muscles, connective tissue. And notice in general what's happening inside of your body. How are your legs feeling? Your hips, your belly, chest. Notice sensation in your arms, shoulders, face. And then let's take a moment too to notice what's happening inside of the body, really what's happening with the emotions. So for most of us, we're going to sense into this by feeling into our heart center or our belly or both. It may be that these sensations are very subtle or that you don't feel much at all. Or it may be that you feel quite a lot. And then we'll begin to notice the sensations of the breath. So really simply, as you breathe in, notice that you're breathing in. And as you breathe out, notice that you're breathing out. We'll begin to deepen the inhalation and slow down the exhalation. And today I'll introduce a little step further with the breath that we can go. A breathing technique that's called Ujjayi Pranayama. Sometimes we refer to this in English as ocean sounding breath. So the way that we do this is we close off the back of the throat a little bit. I've heard it said that it's like fogging a mirror, and it is, except that we continue to breathe in and out through our nose. So what happens is that you'll start to hear your breath. It'll make this ocean sounding inhale and exhale. This will help us to stay tuned in with the breath, and it also it slows the breath down, so it can be really soothing for the nervous system. So let's try that a little bit now, inhaling, little closing off in the back of the throat. Exhaling, little closing off in the back of the throat through the nose. I'll do it a little loudly, or more loudly than I normally would, so that maybe the mic will pick it up. And I'm going to soften my breath now, because it's my opinion that it's best to do this gently, that we don't really need to do this extreme breathing in any way, that really actually keeping it nice and gentle is probably the most useful. So if you're enjoying that breath, as you exhale, let's release the hands by the sides. And then like we did on Monday, we'll inhale nice and simple, bring the arms up and overhead. And exhale, everything comes back down. And then maybe seeing what feels good about this movement and about being with your breath. Where's the pleasure? Where's the sweetness? How about 2 or 3 more? Deep inhale, arms come up. Slow exhale, everything comes back down. Good. And then the next time that your arms are overhead, let's stay. Maybe interlace the fingers and turn the palms towards the ceiling. You can make any little movements here that would feel good. Maybe that's rounding through the spine or lifting the chest. Little side bends can be nice. Right, and then release the interlace, inhale, lift the chest here, and then exhale, we're gonna take a twist. So very simply, bring one hand outside of one knee, the other hand behind your back, and then look over your back shoulder. Sense into whether your spine is over your pelvis and your head is over your spine. Make any adjustments so that you feel upright. Take a couple of deep breaths. And then for this last breath, if you like, turn to look over your front shoulder, a little counter stretch. Inhale. Exhale, and then inhale, let's bring the arms back up. And exhale over to your second side. So starting with looking over your back shoulder, just see if you can notice the sensation of your spine over your pelvis, your head over your spine. And if you're not feeling that, make any little adjustments so that you feel nice and upright. Maybe noticing the sound of your breath. And then for the last breath here, if you like, please look over your front shoulder. Good. And then inhale, we'll bring the arms back up. Let's do a little bit more dynamic movement with the breath. So coming to that Ujjayi Pranayama, if you enjoy that, inhale here, exhale through the nose. We'll make a little tip to one side. Inhale, come back up. And exhale, a little tip to the other side. I think we'll go 2 or so more on each side, and then we'll hold it for a few breaths. Next time that you're to one side, let's stay. And then I suggest that you roll the top ribs back behind you a little bit. Maybe you look up towards the ceiling and then relax your head so there's no tension in your neck. Take a couple of deep breaths into those top side ribs so that you feel them expand. Last big inhale. Exhale, and then inhale, come back up to center. Exhale, we'll tip over to the second side. So again, rolling the top ribs back to open the chest here. Maybe looking up, but then see if you can relax your skull. Take a few deep breaths into these side ribs here that we're exposing and spreading. And then we'll inhale, come back up to center. Last stretch here, lift the chest. And then we'll make our way back to all fours. If you'd like a little padding for your knees, then get some padding for your knees. Find your way so that your knees are underneath your hips, more or less, and your wrists are under your shoulders. Once you're here, coming back to that breath, as you inhale, lift the chest, lift the sit bones. This is cow pose. And then as you exhale, we'll round the spine, tuck the chin. 4 or 5 of these. Again, seeing what feels good about being here. Maybe there's some little more movements that you might take or ways to adjust so that you find a lot of pleasure as you move your body with your breath. Okay. Let's come back to a neutral spine and then send your hips back towards your heels. I like to have the knees wide, but you can also have them together. And hands stretch out in front of you. Relax your forehead onto the ground. If your forehead doesn't easily touch the ground, then rest your forehead on your hands. Take 3 or 4 deep breaths here in child's pose. And as a reminder, this is a good place to come if you'd like to take a rest. And that might be a rest for your physical body if it gets tired, and it might be a rest for your mind. You just need a little bit of sort of dropping out a minute. There's a Facebook meme that with this woman doing child's pose in the grocery aisle, and it says, "My yoga teacher says I can take child's pose whenever." Yes, you can. Especially now, no one will look at you weird in this class. All right, let's come back to all fours. We're going to slide our hands forward a few inches. So that's a little bit of a wider or a longer footprint than being on all fours. And then tuck your toes, send the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Take your time here, pedal out your feet. I'm going to let you get just a little stretched out in your body before I give some, I will say alignment cues. I don't really like the word alignment so much because it suggests that there's one way to do a pose, and there's not one way to do a pose. We all have a lot of different body types, injuries, just structural things. We're totally different. We look similar, but there are so many things going on that make us different. So I don't think in any way that if I tell an alignment cue that that's the one way to do it, not at all. It's just suggestions that work for a lot of people. Okay, let's settle into a more static downward facing dog pose. And then everybody bend your knees and send your sit bones up a bit. So here you can feel kind of like we did sitting, that you get a little bit of the curve in the low back. You might not see it, but you might be able to feel it as your sit bones reach up and back behind you. Relax your head and your neck completely here. And then slowly begin to straighten the legs. Your heels definitely don't need to touch down. Not at all. Let's instead focus today on seeing about getting the sit bones high and the knees straight or straight-ish. Let's take 3 more deep breaths. Really push the thigh bones back, lift the sit bones. Okay, looks good. Nice. All right. Let your knees come down to the earth. Let's take a child's pose, just a couple breaths, and then we'll move on to some sun salutations. All right, when you're ready, we'll pass through down dog just to transition. So coming back to down dog, when you're ready, walk your feet up towards your hands, and we'll find that standing forward fold. Relax your head and your neck here. It's completely fine to have a little bend in your knees, or you can go straight if you like. Some people really enjoy, including me, placing the fingertips in the elbow creases. And then whatever you decide about that, let's really relax the head and the neck completely. All right. Bring your hands to your outer hips. Feel your feet really connected to the earth. And from that, we're going to press through the feet and come up with a flat back. Exhale, release the arms. All right, let's do 3 half sun salutations. I think we did this last time. So when you're ready, on an inhalation, arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, come halfway up. My fingertips are coming to the top of my shins. Exhale, fold again. Inhale, feel the feet, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. 2 more like this. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, lift the torso halfway, flat back. This strengthens the spine to come up like this. And then exhale, fold again. Inhale, feel the feet, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. Last one. Inhale, arms come up. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold again. Inhale, feel the feet, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. Let's find your feet underneath you. Take a pause here. Notice how your body is feeling now. Notice any sensations of pleasure, comfort. And then connecting again with the breath. We'll do a few sun salutations nice and slow, and we'll stop along the way to look at some various poses. On your next inhalation, let the arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, come halfway up, lengthen the spine like we've been doing. Exhale, fold and step the right foot back. Let's let the knee come down into a low lunge. You can bring your hand to your thigh here. And then a little bit lift up through the front of the pelvis. So most of us are going to get a big, big stretch in that back thigh. You can stay here or lift the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Drop the hips any amount, but what I think is a little bit more important even than dropping the hips is getting that front of the pelvis, hip points to come up. That's what's really going to stretch the thigh. And these low lunges are great after sitting. So we're stretching out the very parts that tend to get tense from being in our chairs. Last big inhale. And then exhale, bringing the hands to the floor. Tuck the back toes and step back to plank. Let's hold our plank today for a few breaths. So please feel free to drop your knees, of course. And then we're going to look and see that our shoulders are more or less over our wrists and that the belly is engaged. So this is an instance where we might want to tuck the tailbone a little bit because that's going to help us engage the core. And then drop your hips so that the hips are in line with the shoulders. Push away with the hands spread between the shoulder blades. Take one more deep breath. And then exhale your way to down dog or to child's pose. Take a few deep breaths and allow yourself some time to rest. Okay, you can decide now if you'd like to do another plank pose. If you would like to, then come on in. We're going to bring, again, the shoulders over the wrists. Feel free to drop your knees. And then really what we're doing here in plank is we're strengthening the core and we're strengthening a lot of the body, almost all the body. But in particular, let's draw the belly back towards the spine. Lift up through the inner thighs, look forward slightly. And then push your hands away from you into the sticky mat to spread your shoulder blades in the back of the body. Maybe you stay for 2 or 3 more breaths. And then let's tap the knees back to child's pose, or maybe downward facing dog if your energy is feeling high. Do the thing that feels the most pleasurable, not necessarily the thing that you think is best for you or that you should do. Do what feels good. Good. All right. Let's meet up in downward facing dog when you're ready. So just be a transition. We will inhale to lift the right foot high back behind us, 3-legged dog. And then exhale, step the foot towards the top of the mat. We'd like for it to end up in between the hands, but a lot of us are going to want to grab hold of the foot to bring it there. Drop the left knee. We'll start with the hands and the thigh. And then let's try this so that we can get the sensation of the pelvis a little bit more. Back your hips up over the back knee. And from here, lift the front of the pelvis. And you might feel that stretch there in the top of the thigh without even dropping the hips. So from here, once you feel the lifting up of these hip points, then drop the hips again. Then if you'd like to stretch the arms overhead. Good. Nice. Looks great. Stay for a couple of breaths. Last big inhale here. And then exhale, bring your hands down. Inhale, tuck the toes and straighten the back leg. Exhale, step forward to the top of the mat. Inhale, lift halfway up, fingertips to shins or knees or thighs. Exhale, fold. Inhale, connected to the earth through the feet, come all the way back up to stand. Exhale, release the arms. Let's flow through that one more time. Inhale, arms come up and overhead. Exhale over your legs. Inhale, come halfway up, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold again and step the left foot back, knee down. Inhale, fingertips up, low lunge, lift the chest here. Exhale, hands down. Inhale, tuck the toes, step back, plank pose. Stay here for a couple of breaths, or if you've had enough plank, then go to down dog or child's pose, be totally fine. Otherwise, I'm gonna hold it here just for a little bit of repetition and a few more of those alignment cues just to keep saying again and again. Push the floor away with your hands. Look forward of your sticky mat. Draw your belly button back towards your spine. Nice. Lift up through the inner thighs. And then when you've had enough, exhale, hips up and back, downward facing dog. Let's stay for 3 breaths. Inhale. Exhale, 1. Inhale. Exhale, 2. Inhale. Exhale, 3. Inhale, left foot lifts. Exhale, step it forward towards the top of your mat. Right knee comes down. Inhale, fingertips up, lift the chest. Exhale, hands down. Inhale, straighten the back leg. Exhale, step forward, top of the mat. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, feel the feet, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. Okay, we're going to do a slightly different sun salutation now. And I'll just say that there are so many different combinations and ways to do sun salutations that you're going to hear, little variations in themes. Teachers will do them slightly differently all the time. But hopefully you're getting all of the elements here. So once again, finding your feet underneath you, hands by your sides. On an inhalation, let the arms come up and overhead. Exhale, fold over your legs. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, step the right foot back. Inhale here. Exhale, step the left foot back. Inhale and plank. Exhale, let's come all the way to the ground. Inhale with your hands underneath your shoulders, loop the shoulders back, come into a low cobra. Exhale, forehead to the floor. Let's do this a few times. So on the inhalation, loop the shoulders back, lift the chest up. Exhale, forehead comes down. Continue with your own breath, inhaling to lift up, exhaling to lower down. Maybe if it was feeling good, reconnecting with that Ujjayi pranayama. Okay, and then the next time that you're up in Cobra, let's stay. Nice low Cobra, back of the neck stays long. Legs are really grounding into the sticky mat. Shoulders are rolling away from the ears. Inhale, and then exhale. Go ahead and bring your forearms in front of you. Rest your forehead on your forearms. Relax your heels away from each other. Take a couple of deep breaths. Okay. While we're here, I'd like to teach Sphinx pose. So to do Sphinx pose, come up so that your elbows are underneath your shoulders. Yeah. I don't have good camera view on you, so have a look and see if you can see what's happening here. My elbows are underneath my shoulders. My forearms are parallel. My hands are spread nice and wide. And then here too, I'm going to root down through the pubic bone to get a little bit out of that low back. And then we want to bring the back bend into the upper back. So a way to do that is to drag the forearms towards you and feel the chest lift between the upper arms. Back of the neck stays long. Take 2 or 3 deep breaths, really roll the shoulders out away from the ears, down away from the ears. Keep dragging the sticky mat towards you to draw the chest forward, back of the neck, nice and long, so we don't need to look up. Instead, looking a couple feet in front of you. Take a big inhale. Good, and then exhale, let's slide the hands back and make your way either to child's pose or to downward facing dog as you wish. Let's stay for 3 deep breaths wherever you are. Inhale. Exhale 1. Inhale. Exhale 2. Inhale. Exhale 3. Inhale, lift the left leg. Exhale, step it forward between the hands. Take your time getting there. Inhale here, and then exhale, step the right foot forward, fold over your legs. Inhale, connected through the feet, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, release the arms. Okay, so that's it for sun salutations for tonight. I know that we haven't gotten into chaturanga. If you've been to yoga classes, you've probably heard that. So on Monday, we'll address chaturanga. For those of you who are interested in it, it's the yoga push-up. So that's coming. I'm curious if anybody else has any sun salutation questions while we're pausing. Nope.
Yes, I'll just ask that the sun salutation almost is like a little routine. It seems like you do a couple of movements over and over. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Yes. Yeah. Um, yes. And it's, I think the part of the practice where we're getting our body warmed up, and a lot of these poses you will do 5 million times: down dog, child's pose, cobra, just over and over and over again, and plank. And depending on the yoga class, if you're going to a strong yoga class, then you'll do this chaturanga pose that we'll get to on Monday. So yes, lots of repetition in the sun salutations. Yes. Yeah, is that you?
But okay, I do have a quick question. If let's say I feel a little bit uncomfortable on my wrist when doing the downward facing dog, is there any modifications that I can do with the?
Certainly, yeah. So if you have wrist pain in downward facing dog, there's a good chance you might have it also in plank pose. Did it come up for you in plank?
Yeah, I think sometimes on and off. Yeah, but the longer I hold, the more that I would feel it.
Yeah, and we're holding down dog for longer. So what you want to do, what you can try, is to put more of your weight into your hands. So put weight into the front of your, I'm going to demonstrate. You're not going to be able to actually see, but I think I'll have an easier time describing if I'm doing it. So you can see, maybe if your screen is big enough, that like this, I have a lot of weight in the wrist. My fingertips are actually coming up. They're really light. So if you have wrist pain, you want to do the opposite. You want to really ground through the hands, through the fingers, and let the wrist be a little bit lighter.
Okay.
Also, if you really have wrist pain, if there's sharp pain and it's happening over and over again, then you can modify by coming to your forearms. And it might be good, as you're strengthening and getting your body used to it, to do some down dogs on your forearms. So try that and let me know how it goes with bringing the weight into the finger side of the hands.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Good. Anybody else have any? Yeah, and yeah, I'm seeing this. I think Kip is doing we can do some wrist stretches, things like that. What else? Anything else? Okay, let's do some balance poses. So we're going to come back, find your feet underneath you. Notice yourself feeling steady and supported, both by the earth and by your body, your bones, your muscles, connective tissue. And then we'll begin to shift the weight into one foot. Bring the other knee up, out to the side. You can either reach down, grab a hold of the ankle and bring it into the thigh, or calf, or the big toe. The big toe can touch the ground for a little extra support. And if balance is really not your thing, it's really, really fine to be near a wall. Give yourself what you need here. And then your hands can come to prayer or reach up towards the ceiling. And then the thing that I like to emphasize, especially in tree pose, is that most of us are going to have a tendency to sort of hang out in the hip joint. So the standing leg, that hip, bring it in towards the midline. And you can accomplish this. You can really feel your inner thigh pressing into the foot. And that will bring you nice and upright and steady and not hanging out so much in the hip joint. So see if you can access that feeling. Yeah, looks great. Nice. Last big inhale. Exhale, release the arms, release the foot. You can shake out the legs a little bit if you like. And we'll do the second side. So bringing the knee out front, out to the side, and then wherever your preferred position for the foot is. The issue with the thigh has been, in my experience, for me and for a lot of students I've seen, that the foot slides. It's like we can't get friction. And if that's true for you, there's no particular, you don't get an award for getting your foot into the thigh. It doesn't really matter. But this idea of really bringing the standing leg into the foot might help. And then the other thing that I'll address while we're standing here on one leg is a lot of teachers say they advise you against putting your foot on the knee, which makes sense because our knee doesn't really want to bend in that direction, like outward. So you might avoid that. If you do it every now and then, it's not going to hurt you. Our bodies are very sturdy. And then notice on this side too, to bring that standing leg thigh into the foot. Nice. Yes. All right. Let's let that go. Step the feet a little bit wider than hip distance, toes out, heels in. Let's make some hip circles. And then change the direction of your circles. Okay. Let's do one more fun standing balance pose while we're here. I hope you think it's fun. I think it's fun. Let's shift the weight again into one foot, and we're going to bring the other knee up and cross it over like we're sitting in a chair. And in fact, we're going to come into a little bit of a squat. So the knees bend. And we bend a little bit at the hips. Some people will be able to tuck their toes behind the calf. That doesn't really work for me. And some people will really like to have their toe touch the ground just for a little bit of extra support. And then as you're ready, let's inhale the arms to a T. Notice which leg you have on top. That same side arm is going to come to the bottom as you sweep the arms across your body. You can either give yourself a hug like this or bring your forearms to touch. Maybe the palms can come together. Sit back into the squat if you have a little room to go. Lift the elbows. Yes, and wobbling is totally part of it, totally fine. All right, and then press into that standing leg. Let's come on out. This pose is called Eagle Pose, Garudasana. And I particularly like it because I like it the brain challenge. So let's shift the weight into the opposite foot. Cross the legs. Sit back into your chair. And then if you want, let that toe drop down. Inhale the arms to a T. Notice the leg that you have on top. We're going to take that arm underneath as we sweep the arms across the body. Maybe giving yourself a hug or maybe bringing the forearms to touch, maybe the palms touch. And then drop back into your chair if you have a little room to go. Spread the shoulder blades away from each other in the back of the body. Lift the elbows. And take a couple of deep breaths. All right, and then when you're ready, let's come on out. Shake it out a bit. And we're going to move into some standing poses now. So last time we did Warrior 2 or Warrior 1, I don't remember. 2, okay. Let's do 1. We'll mix, no, let's do 2. We'll do 1 next week. All right, take a nice long stance. Turn your right toes out. I'll be your mirror. Right toes out, left toes in a little bit. So I kick my left toes out a bit. And then, as I said last time, more or less ankles under wrists. Inhale here. Exhale, bend your front knee. This is, I think, an important cue here is to look at your knee and make sure it's heading back behind you towards the little toe side of the foot. And then as well, press that left thigh back. So it's almost like our legs and our thighs are spreading away from each other quite actively. Reach the fingertips away from each other. Take the gaze over your front middle finger. Okay, y'all look really good. So noticing that you have weight in the back leg. Notice your spine over your pelvis, your head over your spine. keep the bend in your front knee. Turn your right palm up. Inhale, side bend. Lift the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Reverse warrior. And then exhale, we're going to come forward and bring the elbow to the knee. So side angle pose. And then the left arm, stretch it back behind you, and then sweep it forward and out in front of you so that your upper arm ends up over the ear. Yeah, that's it. Good. And then just like we did in our side bending in the beginning of class, see about rolling the top ribs back just a little bit, any amount. Maybe you look up if that's comfortable for your neck. Good. Let's come on back to warrior two. And straighten the front leg. Bring your hands to your hips. So more with the pelvis. There's so much about yoga and really all the movement that I do. It's really all of our weight is here. So much of our weight is here, the majority of our weight. And so it's how we move the pelvis really determines the pose. So we're going to get into Trikonasana triangle pose. And the way I like to teach it is to bring your hands to your hips and just notice your pelvis as it tips sideways. So over the right leg, and then over the back leg. Yeah. So it's not a movement in the spine so much as it is in the pelvis. The spine stays neutral. And you might even feel into the sensation of your hip sockets rolling over the heads of the femur bone as you slide back and forth laterally. Good. All right, let's inhale, bring the arms up. And then that same movement, we're just going to tip the pelvis over the front leg and then let the fingertips go where they want to go. No need for the fingertips to go far down the leg or touch the floor, not at all. And the left fingertips are going to reach up towards the ceiling. You might a little bit roll the top ribs back like we've been doing. And then decide what feels good for your neck. If it really feels okay in your neck to look towards the ceiling, then do that. But if it brings tension, look down at your big toe. Take a couple more deep breaths. All right, and then press through your feet, inhale and come on up. Exhale, release the arms. We'll do all of that on the second side. So now turning your left toes out, right foot in, right toes in, right heel kicked out just a bit. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, bend your left knee. And again, checking this knee is going over the little toe side of the foot. We really want to be adamant about that because the inner knee is vulnerable. And so again, it's not that we're going to like kill our knee right here doing this one warrior two, but if we do enough warrior twos over time, there could be some risk of a repetitive use injury there. And then feel your thigh bones reaching away from each other. So that right thigh is pushing back and the left thigh also is pushing away from you. Fingertips reach actively away from each other so the arms are engaged. Take a couple more deep breaths. See if you can keep the bend in the front knee, turn the left palm up, and we'll reverse the warrior. In other words, we're taking a side bend, reaching the fingertips up towards the ceiling. Maybe look up here. And then on an exhalation, we're gonna, again, it's a rotation of the pelvis over the heads of the femur bone to come into side angle pose. So I like the elbow at the knee. And then that right arm, reach it out in front of you and then sweep it overhead. So the upper arm ends up over the ear. And then roll the top ribs back any amount if you have some room to go. Maybe look towards the ceiling or down at the big toe if that's better for your neck. Take a couple of deep breaths. And then press through your feet. Inhale, let's come back up. Straighten the front leg. hands to hips. We'll do this triangle pose prep again. So just noticing, you can tip your pelvis back and forth over the heads of the femur bones. And the spine stays neutral. The spine's just following along with the pelvis. The movement is all happening here. I have a very active little dog here. I don't know what he's after. Okay, let's lift the arms this time. And then the next time that your pelvis is tipped over that left leg, let the fingertips come down, or the left fingertips will come down. The right fingertips will stretch up towards the ceiling. Good. All right. And then press through the feet, inhale and come up. We'll do triangle pose again on each side. So turn again. Feel your feet, both of them really solidly grounded. And just like in Warrior Two, our legs are straight, but let's continue to push those thigh bones back. Inhale, lift the arms. And then exhale, feel your pelvis rotate over the heads of the femur bones as you stretch and reach. Maybe those right fingertips are reaching forward, and then they come to the thigh, shin, or foot. What tends to happen in triangle pose is that we think, I don't know why, but somehow we think, because we've seen it done before, that the hand should be really low. But what happens if we get too low is that the chest collapses and we lose this feeling of really being open. And this is what I love about triangle poses, this feeling of my chest open, my limbs stretching in all directions. All right, looks really nice. Good. And then press through the feet, inhale and come up. Exhale, release the arms. Switch the sides. So this time the left toes are out. Right heel's kicked back. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, rotate the torso forward. And then keeping the spine nice and long, not collapsing the chest, just keep reaching those left fingertips forward. And when you can't go anymore, let them come down to your shin or thigh. And the right fingertips will reach up towards the ceiling. The head here, everybody has a preference. So if it feels good to look up towards the ceiling, go for it. For many people, including me, I can't do that without getting some tension in my neck. So I will choose usually to look down at my big toe. Take a couple of breaths more, maybe see if there's something about this pose that you enjoy. And if there's nothing, then loosen up a bit, come out of it a little bit so that you feel some pleasure. Okay, and then press down through the feet and come on up. Parallel the feet. Let's get our feet underneath us. Take a couple of breaths. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, close your eyes. Notice how your body is feeling now. These weight-bearing standing poses can be challenging. What's the residue of this in your body? How are you feeling? All right. And then let your eyes open. I think we'll practice one more standing balance while we're here. And oftentimes these poses will all flow together, but today I'm breaking them apart. If you have a yoga block, grab it. If you don't have a yoga block, maybe, for next week or for the future, your future life, you might grab one. Looks like a lot of you have one. You can also use like a big dictionary. If we have dictionaries anymore, a big book or stack of books would work. And put this towards the top right corner of your mat. Take a nice long stance. Legs are straight here. Inhale, lift the arms. And then exhale, come to triangle pose, keeping it nice and simple to start. Bring your left hand to your hip. Look forward of your right foot about 3 feet. So we're looking where we're going here. And then we're going to take a few steps with our back foot until we find the weight of the pelvis over the front leg. And then the block in your hand comes underneath your shoulder. So you'll end up probably picking the block up and shifting it forward. Good. Flex the back ankle, push the thigh back so that the muscles of that back leg are really supporting the weight of the pelvis. Maybe the left fingertips stretch up towards the ceiling. Take a couple of deep breaths. If you're enjoying the pose, stay. And if you're not, maybe go back to triangle pose. It's also very likely that you're coming in and out. You know, you come down, you come back in. You don't have to stay. Maybe one more breath. And then let's all meet in our triangle pose. We'll inhale, come back to stand, take your block with you. And switch the feet. Let's do that again on the second side. I think this might be the plank pose is very challenging, but just in terms of the brain and all the things that we have to keep in mind to do a pose, this might be the most challenging pose we've done so far. So if it feels hard, don't worry, you know, it'll be there for you. If you want it later or not, you can always leave it out. Okay, I'm going to take that block out in front of me so it's ready. Inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, triangle pose. And then to come into the pose, I like to bring my back hand to my hip just to help with the balance. The gaze is so important in balance. So I'm looking where my gaze is going to end up, which is about 3 or 4 feet in front of me. And then I begin to pick up the right leg, take a few steps. This might be what it looks like. Eventually, the leg will lift and the hand with the block will come right underneath the shoulder. Nice. Flex the ankle, push the thigh back. Yeah, and if you're coming in and out, perfect. Good. If you have some steadiness, then maybe the right fingertips stretch up to the ceiling. 3 or 4 breaths. All right, really nice. It's probably about enough. Let's meet up in triangle pose. And then press through the feet, come up to stand. Step your feet together. Bring them underneath you. Let's take a little pause. Maybe close your eyes if that feels okay, or take a soft gaze. Notice how you're feeling now. All right, and then allow your eyes to open. So we've done some standing poses now. I'm just going to come in a little closer. You guys look great. You don't really, for a beginner's class, I don't, you know, you look like you've all done this before. And I'm curious if anybody has any questions, particularly about the standing poses or anything that's come up so far.
What was the last balancing pose that we just did? What's that called?
Oh, good question. I don't think I said half moon pose. In Sanskrit, it's Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. Anything else? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I really appreciated the guidance on the warrior pose in terms of remembering the back leg and to use the thigh there, because it really changed how I experienced that pose, you know, to really be aware of both legs and that they're supporting me. So I just, thanks for that instruction. That was really new, and really it's a pose that I've struggled with quite a bit, and that's very helpful.
You're welcome. Good. I'm glad that was helpful. And it's true. I see it a lot that we tend to be, and I think this is a philosophical thing. It's not just an asana thing. And in fact, there's, I don't think any separation, but we're pitched forward into the future. We're like, we're aware of the front of our body, but not the back of our body. And so a lot of the practice for me is becoming more and more aware of the back of my body. And a good place to do that is warrior poses. All right, anything else? Okay, I think let's do some back bends. So we're going to come to lie down on our mats. Bring your feet underneath your knees. I think I can get my mat a little closer now. Yeah, just lie down on your back, feet under your knees. Take a moment to get situated. And I think we'll do a little bit of dynamic movement now because we've been in our heads a lot. So let's get back to the breath. Exhale, bring your hands to your sides, feel supported by the earth. And then on an inhalation, really gently lift your hips up and bring your arms overhead. Exhale, let's lower everything back down. We'll continue like this. If you were enjoying the Ujjayi Pranayama, the ocean sounding breath, this is a really good time to come back to it. And in any case, let's let those exhalations be extra long and slow, and the inhalations be extra deep. Okay. Next time that your arms are overhead and your hips are up, let's stay. Continue with those really deep, steady breaths. Last inhale and then exhale, bring everything back down. Take a little rest. If you like, you might spread your feet so they're mat width and let your knees fall together. Enjoy a couple of breaths, just not doing anything. And then we'll do a more traditional version of bridge pose. So bring your feet again underneath your knees, about hip distance apart. And then when you're ready, on an inhalation, press through the feet to lift the hips up. And this time we're going to interlace the fingers behind the back and roll onto your upper arm. So pick up one side, roll that upper arm underneath you, and then pick up the other side, roll it underneath you. Energetically, feel your thigh bones draw in towards each other. They're not going to touch. That's not really the point. It's just that when we're in this position, muscularly, what the body is going to want to do is it's going to want to splay the knees. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we can really energize the pose by bringing the thigh bones towards each other, towards parallel. Keep pushing through the feet. And you might notice the sensation of the chest drawing towards the chin. Big inhale. And then exhale, come back down. Take a few breaths. We're going to do that pose a couple of times. All right. This time, I'm going to offer a little variation just because it gives a nice sensation. So have your hands by your sides and inhale, press through the feet, lift the hips, same as we were doing. And then grab hold of the edges of your sticky mat. Roll your upper arm so that your palms face up. So you're holding onto the sticky mat and then feel as though you could rip the sticky mat in half by reaching the arms away from each other. And then wiggle a bit so that this action lets you lift the chest up. Stay there for a couple of breaths. It's hard to know if y'all are getting this sensation, not being there in the room with you, but ideally You'll feel how this action in the arms allows the chest to lift. Take one more breath. And then release the mat, come back down. Rest for a couple of breaths. If that didn't make a ton of sense to you, that's okay. Maybe it was helpful for one or two of you, I don't know. And then let's do one more back bend. So bridge pose again. You could do the classic interlace the fingers behind the back if you liked, or you wanted to play around a little bit more with that sticky mat, ripping it apart, lifting the chest, then you can do that. It's a little aggressive maybe, but I think it gives a nice sensation of spreading and opening the chest. When you're ready, come on up. And then you might notice just anatomically what's going on here is that our glute muscles are lifting the hips up. And then the glutes also will spread the legs. That's what they do. Those are the actions of those muscles. And so that's why this cue is often given, and it makes sense to me, to let the thighs be parallel so that we're really engaging the legs and we're countering the action of the glutes. We really just want in this pose for the glutes to lift the hips. But there's no harm in letting the knees splay either. So if that's what they do, you're certainly not going to hurt yourself by doing that. And then the other little cue that I have here, and I think this came up last time, somebody had the question that this might hurt your low back. So remember that if that's true for you, it can help to be really diligent about tucking your tailbone towards your knees, getting out of that low back curve a little bit here. Maybe 2 or 3 more breaths. If you're doing all those actions, you'll probably feel a lot of sensation. You'll really be working hard. That's what I'm feeling in my body right now. And then when you're ready, let's exhale and come back down. Okay, bring the soles of your feet together and your knees wide. If you do this and you feel like it's too much stretch, you have a couple of options. You can make fists with your hands and slide your fists right underneath your upper thighs at the base of your buttocks. And that can give you a little bit of support. Or if it just doesn't work for you, then bring your feet wide and your knees together. Really all we want here is to rest for a moment. We're going to downshift a bit in the practice and do some more calming poses. Maybe you can feel the effects of gravity here. So noticing the front of your body releasing into the back of your body. Feeling the back of your body release onto the earth. And noticing as well the front of the brain release into the back of the brain. Okay, let's bring our hands underneath our thighs and the feet will come underneath the knees. I'm going to do a spinal twist now. So go ahead and pick your hips up just a couple of inches and shift them to the right ever so slightly, not much. And then the knees are going to come in towards the chest and over to the left. The arms can come to a T, or some people like to rest the left hand on the legs. That's good too. And then probably you're going to look away from your knees if that's comfortable for your neck. Once you find the pose that feels good for you, really let gravity do all the work here too. No need to hold any muscular effort. And then inhale, bring the knees back to center. Let's get your pelvis level again. And then shift it a couple of inches over to the left, knees in towards the chest and over to the right. Arms to a T, maybe resting your hand on your legs if you like that. All right. Let's bring the knees back up to center. If you want to make a couple circles with your knees, go for it. And then we're going to come back up to sit. So stay soft, stay relaxed, just roll to one side and come on up. If you do have a blanket or a cushion you can sit on, please grab it. I'm going to use this folded yoga blanket and folding it so that it's a little long and narrow. Some people really actually might do better with a thicker blanket or with 2 blankets. And then we'll do the pose that we did on Monday and maybe a couple more forward folds while we're here. So go ahead and stretch your legs out in front of you. And then we've been doing a lot with the pelvis tonight. So we'll do a little bit more. Remember when we were seated at the beginning of class, we did that little rocking with the pelvis. It's the same thing here. We really want in these forward folds for the pelvis to rock forward so that we feel a little bit the curve of the low back, and we're not going to take the forward fold all in one place, all in the low back. So once you feel your pelvis tilted forward a little bit, and if you're not accessing it, then my suggestion is next time, get a little bit more height, sit up higher. And then when you're ready, inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, come forward. Your hands just land where they land. Relax the head, relax the neck. Okay, and then inhale and let's come up. Grab hold of your inner knees. We're going to bring the knees wide, soles of feet together. And then same thing here with the pelvis. I'm finding it a little bit harder to access that tilting forward of the pelvis like I've been describing, but a little bit, let's go for it, see what you can find. And then we'll inhale, the arms come up. And exhale, come forward any amount. It may be that you don't come forward much at all. You might be upright like this. Wherever you are, see if you can tuck the chin just a little bit, close the eyes. And find a way to sit that feels like you're bringing yourself into yourself. So we're coming into center, maybe rounding forward a little bit. Relaxing the jaw, the tongue, the eyes. If you do feel any achiness in your low back, then please come out of the pose a little bit. No need to go so deep. All right. Slowly come back up. We'll do one more seated forward fold while we're here. This time we're going to bring the knees in, the legs nice and wide. You can bring your hands behind your back to lift your chest. And this is the position that I actually find it a little bit easier to get that forward tilt of the pelvis. So you might find that, you might not. It's okay if you don't. And then inhale, lift the arms. Exhale, come forward in the amount. It may be just that your hands come in front of you. It may be that your hands need to stay behind. See if you can root through the thigh bone. So we'll keep our legs engaged for this one. Flex the ankles. And then take your time, walk your hands back. Let's cross our legs, just real simple cross-legged position. You can bring your hands to your thighs, your knees. Find that nice dignified posture. Close your eyes if that's comfortable, or keep a soft gaze. We'll just sit for a minute or so, really taking this time to notice what's happening in your body. How are you feeling now? And then simply, as you breathe in, notice that you're breathing in. And as you breathe out, notice that you're breathing out. All right. And then when you're ready, let the eyes open. We're going to come into Shavasana now. So I think I'll give a tad bit more instruction than I did last time for Shavasana. And one thing I'll say is that it's really important that you're just comfortable. That's the most important thing, that the idea here is to relax completely. And so some of the things that will prevent most people from being able to relax, one is being cold. So if you need to put on a sweater, your socks, or grab a blanket, do that. And then another thing that can be really hard to relax in is if you're underneath a bright light. So if you have an eye pillow, you can grab an eye pillow or a t-shirt, place something over your eyes, or dim your lights. And then a couple of prop suggestions. You don't need these, but if you have them, I like to take this yoga blanket and fold it in half to make a rectangle. And then I use that as a pillow. I do that almost every time that I take Shavasana. And then if you have a rolled blanket or a bolster or a pillow, a cushion, anything to put under your knees can help to release the low back. Feels really nice. And maybe you even have another blanket to put over the top of your body. So this would be my setup. I would come, lie down, get that bolster or blanket really settled into the crooks of my knees, lie back with my head supported, my legs apart, my knees apart, toes splayed out to the side, arms releasing by the sides. And then my arms, I'm pretty sure I said this on Monday, are probably 30 or 45 degrees away from my body. So they're not at a T. And for a lot of people, that will make your arms fall asleep, but they're also not right up against your body. You want to give yourself some space to breathe, room for your lungs to expand. And then I'll take us on a little scan of the body. Just notice various parts, and you can feel those parts. Maybe you'll notice a little sense of relaxation as you bring your awareness to them. Maybe not, just noticing what's there. Beginning with your toes, feel all 10 of your toes. Feel the soles of your feet, the arches. The sensation of your heels touching the ground. And shift awareness over the ankles into the calves and the lower legs. Feel your knees. Your thighs. Feel your hips. Notice any sensation now in your low belly. Maybe you can feel a little bit the breath moving in and out of the low belly and pelvis. And then feel the center of the torso, the solar plexus area in the front and the lower ribs in the back. What does it feel like to breathe in and out of this area of your body? Noticing now the chest and the upper back. What does your inhalation feel like here? What does your exhalation feel like here? Shift awareness down your shoulders and upper arms into your elbows. Feel the bony exterior side of your elbows and feel the soft interior side of your elbows. Bring the awareness over the lower arms and wrists into the backs of the hands. Notice the sensation of the backs of the hands touching the ground. What does that feel like? Feel the palms of your hands. And feel all 10 of your fingers. We'll sweep the awareness now up the arms and into the neck and the throat. Feel your lower jaw and your tongue. Feel the back of your head touching the ground. Feel the crown of your head. And then just for a breath or two, see if you can feel your entire body all at once. Now we'll let go of any lingering effort, no effort whatsoever, no particular place to rest your awareness, just letting it go. Shavasana. Begin to bring your awareness back into your body, back into your breath and your immediate surroundings. You can begin to introduce some small movements, maybe running your thumb over the tips of your fingers, rotating your wrists and your ankles. And then when you feel ready, please bend the knees one at a time, bring the soles of the feet to the floor, and roll to one side or the other side. Pause there perhaps and take a couple of breaths. Take your time. And then when you're ready, we'll come up to sit, finding once again that nice, comfortable, dignified posture. Maybe keeping your eyes closed for another moment, maybe bringing your hands together at the center of your heart. Let's take one last scan of the body here together. How are you feeling right now? And if it feels authentic to you, then allow a sense of well-being to seep into every cell of your body. Let's bring to mind everything that made it possible to come and practice this evening. There is a vast, infinite web of resources and people, and even the sun that starts it all. Our own personal initiative and agency and decision to be here. May this practice be of benefit to the world. As you inhale, lift the chest into the thumbs. And as you exhale, surrender the head to the heart. Inhale, lift the chin, release the palms, and allow the eyes to open. Okay, everyone, thank you. If you have questions, email me or jot them down. Let me know what they are, bring them to class on Monday. And Lauren is going to email you tomorrow the recording for this week's classes. So you'll have those if you want to go back and check anything out or do them again. And of course, come to class, find the classes that you like. You know, like I was saying in the beginning, find something that you find fun, pleasurable, and that you really want to do. That's the best advice that I have. All right, have a great night, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you.